All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Marcus Salem. I'm a PhD student in industrial engineering. And I'm going to talk to you about ethics systems. And so this is a company where we specialize in surgical simulation. So imagine for a second that you are a second-year resident orthopedics and you're attending a surgery for a tibia fracture, a mid-shaft fracture, and you're not expecting to actually perform any surgery. You're going to just watch it. As a second year, you started doing some surgeries, you've used a drill 2 or 3 times, but you're still essentially not. And while you're watching, the surgeon actually hands you this drill that has a 13-inch long ring around the end of it and says that you need to ring up this patient's tibial shaft, completely catching you off guard. And now you've gone from just standing and watching to actually drilling into this patient in front of the whole surgical team, and you're expected not to make any mistakes. Well, I'm going to say mistakes happen kind of a lot. 95% of residents have reported making a surgical mistake in the last year alone. And that is all mistakes. A fifth of those are potentially critical to patient safety. And it's gotten to the point that the accrediting bodies have started to mandate simulation training outside of the operating room. However, that's easier said than done. And right now, there aren't really sufficient methods for training outside the operating room, especially to train somebody proficiency for a task as complex as something that you see before you. The thing to remember too is that mistakes happen, they affect actual patients. So you're dealing with consequences of that. They don't have to get back. So the question then remains, how do we prepare residents to operate? And so that's where we think that we come in. So this was my master's project that I'm now continuing as part of my PhD work. And so what we have are simulators, surgical simulators that have the full, it's a fracture model in soft tissue envelope. So we have the arm and then an ankle fracture. And we have actual surgical tools, and then we provide the necessary imaging to help guide the surgery. So if active like an OR, they have to rely on imaging to see, like X-rays to see what's going on as they're doing these fracture reduction. So this is the live demo of our first prototype, and this was one of the validation studies. So this is actually a second-year resident, and you can see that slip there. So they're kind of actually fumbling, and you can imagine you don't want this to be, her first experience at your ankle. And on the left, this is some of the imaging that we provide to the user. And so we make these from CTs. And so the image that you see on the left is real time. It's what the user can see, but it represents the bones inside the soft tissue. And then the shading looks like an actual X-ray because of the technology that we're using. So it's highly realistic and can be used to train surgeons to not only do the hand-eye coordination, but interpret the X-rays. And you have to use the X-rays to sort of figure out what's going on with the surgery. So the way we do this is we have actual surgical tools. I make fracture models from CT data where I pull the bones and then make artificial fractures and 3D print those. We bury those in a soft tissue model, which is made from molds from actual CT data. And then we have these tracking sensors that we attach to the tools, the bones, and the fracture patterns. And that's how we provide the imaging. But on top of that, we can also do score to tell how somebody is actually performing. And by tracking everything, we can tell who is ready to operate, who needs more practice. And without going into too much detail, we can even get more granular in our feedback. Instead of saying, you're not ready, we can say exactly where somebody stays. So this is an experienced surgeon. And you can see this is the heat spot. So this is where they put their tool on the actual fracture fragment. And this is the tibia. So this is the joint surface, tibial fragment, and then heat spot. So they put their tool in one place and they know exactly where they're going to put it. And this is a line graph of their displacement. So this would be it's perfectly put back. And up here means it's not in their position. So you can see this experienced surgeon goes straight down to almost a perfect reduction. And then they just kind of keep checking and making micro adjustments until they say they've accepted the reduction. However, this is actually a second-year resident currently operating on people, and they are all over the place. So their tool starts out up here, they wander all the way down into the joint surface. So that's where you have cartilage. So that's irreparable damage. And then this line graph showing, down would be perfect. So they actually did really well at first. They put it in the right spot, and then they weren't happy with it. So then they let go. I have rubber bands that there's when you have an injury, you have these displacing forces that pull a fragment away. And so we've made that a firm event. So they let go, goes all the way back, and then they fumble for another minute and a half until they get back to someone that wasn't even as good the first time. And the thing to know with this is both of these, if you only look at the end, which is currently how they're scored, you'd say they're comparable, but how they got there is entirely different. So that's something to keep in mind. And this is something that is new to at least orthopedics and the surgical field, like this level of detail in sort of assessing patient or so our team, this is me with shorter hair. So this was, as I said, this was my master's project that we continued, and I've been working with it. We started this company with the head of the orthopedics residency program here at Iowa and one of the skilled lab managers. So from the very outset, this project has been in collaboration with orthopedic surgeons and residents to make something that's actually functional and useful for them. And because it's a research project, we have published our results with peer-reviewed studies showing that we can differentiate between novices and experts, which really is important if you're trying to make something to help a surgeon be better surgeons. So because this was a research project to start, our initial target market are residency programs, orthopedic residency programs to be specific. So there are 211 in the US, and we have a patent right now in the US only. And that is part of the larger 1,462 hospitals that have orthopedic practices. So just to start, since we have everything geared towards residency, we're going to stay there with the education moving out as we develop more simulation platforms. So in our research, we've been taking the simulators down the road to conduct studies. We've gone to like other residency programs, conferences, and some private conferences. And as we try to enter the market, we're going to continue that model where we have 5 simulators and we'll take them on the road and provide the training and then tell the residents exactly like where they stand compared to other residents of their same level in residency, and also provide the training and bring the models and all the consumables with it. As we develop manufacturing capabilities, then we'll start to directly sell the simulators to consumers, the residency programs specifically, or the simulation departments of these residency programs. The way that this looks, at least what we're thinking at the moment, is for the go-to-market is going to be mobile training, where we would charge a residency program $5,000 a day. And typically, we want to spend about 1 to 2 days at a residency program. We do go to some conferences, and in the past, it's been entirely funded by us in research capacity, but we're thinking of charging between $15,000 to $30,000 depending on the size of the conference. But really, this is just to get us into the market and to expand the awareness that the simulator is now for sale at more than just research capacity. So really, we're thinking once we start actually manufacturing and selling the simulators, this is where we start to make money. And so we'd sell the simulator for $8,000. It takes about $10,000 to make one. So yeah. The bones, in case you're curious, so they drill into the bones and those are replaceable, and then you just take the sensors out and put them on a new bone. And so that's $30 a bone. It's kind of what we're thinking. We partner with this company, Sawbones, who currently they make these synthetic plastic bones, and this is actually the market leader in simulation training. And it's good because this has actual surgical tools and you're drilling into something. So you'll learn the hand-eye coordination. However, you don't get like any feedback on like how well you did. It's not realistic. You don't have to rely on the X-ray imaging, which is really important for a surgeon to learn how to use an X-ray to figure out what's going on in front of them. So we're thinking of partnering with them to manufacture the bones, and we've been in discussion with them for other projects, so we have a pretty good relationship with them. There's a lot of talk right now of full VR simulation, and I don't really think I need to talk a whole lot about that. So you're not going to get technical skills using the wands. You might learn like steps of procedure, or you might get over fear getting the operating room, but you're not going to learn how to actually use the drill, place an implant. A lot of times cadavers are the gold standard, but they are really expensive. They require an entire like an operating room with all the necessary X-ray units, and like the surgeons have to come in if you're doing fractures. They have to make a fracture in the cadaver ahead of time. So really, residents only get about 2 to 3 uses on a cadaver per year, and it really depends on the location. But it's very few uses just because of all the expenses that go along with it. And again, you still don't know how good somebody actually is that you do that. So currently our timeline, we applied for a patent quite a while ago, and that's just now getting approved. We've developed 2 patents. The second prototype, this is the second prototype. So far we've gotten about 56,000 in various funds. And as I said, our next steps are to finish up the project a little bit, make it, polish it a little bit more so it's a little less prototypey, and then try to start doing this enter the market where we provide mobile training. And
I had no idea.
yeah, it's really scary, right?
Yeah.
One thing I've learned is I really, it's bad, but if I needed a surgery, I probably wouldn't go to a teaching hospital.
Right.
Because a lot of times you don't know too. Like there'll be a resident there and it'll say, you have this faculty member operating on you. But while they're operating, they'll have a resident coming back, hey, you should put this plaque.
Especially in July.
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
So do you have people actually using this now?
Yeah, so it's, as I said, it was in the research capacity. And so we do use it at the University of Iowa quite a bit. A lot of the surgeons, especially for the second prototype, a pediatric surgeon was kind of spearheading that with us, who's not in the company, but she's just really great to work with. So they use it quite a bit. And actually the way that we, at least the university here does, is they have like a skill of the month. And so during that month, we'll have like a bunch of different simulation, like, modules and things that we see.
The people who are using, what are they saying about it? They want improvements. Are they asking for?
So this actually was at one of the larger conferences, and this was one of the faculty members that saw the simulator. He's like just all over it because up until now they've been using Savo, which are just those plastic bones that you put in a C clamp and you're drilling directly into. So people are really into it. Their residents are really competitive too, so they really want to know like how good they are compared to their peers. And so they really more than anything just want to know like how good they do. And then like where this.
Related to that, you'll sort of capture data and create sort of normative assessments.
Yeah, maybe not. So here, these are actual performances. So this is what the user gets at the end of their performance. So it automatically captures the data and then runs the assessment. Like here, these peaks is like it's an algorithm that says like, if you go up, I'm going to say that's a reset. So it'll give you all sorts of information on like the total path that your fragments traveled. I think this is like a meter of movement, which is crazy to think that they're moving back and forth. So it gives quite a bit of data. And I'm still trying to figure out how to do like one summative score where it compiles everything to then put somebody on like a skill benchmark or curve. But we definitely have.
This is super cool system we have. What's your background? How do you kind of figure out this would be as big of a problem with those?
So my background is I've been here at the university forever. This is my 4th degree I'm working on right now. I've been in biology and then going to biomedical engineering. Master's where I started this and I'm teach. And actually Martel helped me a lot with the original prototype, learning how to use a CNC machine. So you need somebody to talk to for manufacturing. And the actual project is like my PI or the research manager got the grant. And so he just needed to satisfy a grant and said, like, we need a simulator and just do the project that way. And so that's how I got started on the project, through research.
Do you see this kind of technology going into other areas, biomedical, bioengineering?
Yeah, so I've gone and like through customer discovery, that's like the nursing department and everything. They are kind of all over it too. Like it's really a pretty straightforward thing. What we're doing is taking 3D sensors and just sticking them on a rigid object. So anything you can think of in surgery that would need a tool and like putting the tool into a patient, you could expand into. But as I said, right now the thing we're thinking is to try to go into like partner with an airplane company so that then you could do like a mobile demo. So you could think you could attach a sensor to like a plate or something, and then you could have somebody actually go to the surgeon and say like, here's how you apply this plate, and you know, in front of the surgeon do it. So that's kind of what we're thinking, but as I said, right now, we're just trying to like get into the market.
I had a question, if possible. I was
Okay.
wondering, what, or like, have you considered or thought about the regulatory process? Since I'm assuming it would be a medical device because it's inserted into the body and used during surgeries.
So it's only for training, so this doesn't actually involve patients, it's outside of the operating room. And here you can see, so you essentially set it up on a table, so it only affects the resident, like their training process, so it doesn't have anything to do with it. So we don't think that there are any like FDA
Yeah.
approval. Yeah,
Okay.
for that.
Sorry, I think I just misunderstood. I didn't realize it was just the training. I thought the end goal was to go into the ER, but that makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
I got another question actually.
Yes.
Is there any way that we can keep up with your product, like a LinkedIn or email marketing, to see where you go with this?
I'm not on any social media, and that's something that is kind of a problem. So I'll be trying to develop something. So I guess I could send out an email, and Scott Swenson, who is not here, is saying that I should try to get like a monthly, update going, and that's something that I think I'll be doing too. Up until now, essentially, I've just been toiling away in this prototype, so it's now is the time I'm going to start getting in. So yeah, that'll be happening. And I'll try to get your contact information after, or if you want, you can find me, and it's just marcusstatham@uiowa.edu, and pretty soon I'll try to start doing something.
Awesome. Thank you, Marcus.
Do you have plans to make connections to, say, like the dental college or other, so got the orthopedics focus right now and
Yeah, I like
we're all
this.
imagining other uses.
Yeah, and that's I kind of want to it's spread too thin, so
Right.
I'm just sticking. to this.
This be potentially used like in food tools, that are used for surgery, just like looking up.
I haven't really thought about that, so I'm not really sure. I would like, are you thinking like two tools of these against each other, and then you just look at like
Yeah,
how?
it's like testing the new, this version which is used currently, and I don't know, so there's what has to be.
Yeah, no, I hadn't ever actually considered that. That's interesting.
Good partnership, good
Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
Not as much of a question, but similarly to the other comments on the vision side, like my wife's doing her second fellowship and is originally an OB-GYN, so like wanting to be able to maintain those skills throughout the life of their training. But it's huge, so.
Yeah, and then also on the like farther down the road, as somebody ages out of surgery, you got to make sure that your skills are still exactly present.
Wonder if there's an opportunity to use something like this for recruiting traditionally underrepresented populations into surgery. Thinking of like a job shadowing kind of thing out of high schools.
That would be
You
interesting.
can turn kids on to, it's very hands-on.
Yeah. That would be actually, because it's really weird, like how somebody gets in orthopedic has nothing to do with their coordination or like how extras they are. And there's a huge range. And there even people are thinking like an entry to orthopedics would be like 80. So if you could find somebody at a young age that was really good, yeah.
And that person might not have ever considered.
Yeah.
You talked about how interns are responding to it, and even as of what kind of traction do you get with the insurance companies? You alluded to the liability, the risk, patients, things like that are your natural partnership.
Yeah, that's something I just haven't approached. Like, as I kind of said, this is still, I'm like just exiting the prototyping stage and trying to get into the business side of things. But I don't even know how to approach insurance company and start talking to something like that. It's definitely something that's
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. You were talking about selling the product for $80,000. When you sell the product, on the other side, what do they need? Do you need a special technician? Do you need something or is there a maintenance
Yeah,
part?
so that's something, again, through customer discovery that we found out is like really important is, and even some companies won't sell just a product, they'll sell like a subscription. And having, especially if this is like, or the thing about the government. So what we're thinking is, and we're still trying to figure out the best way to do it, but essentially it'd be like sell the product, but included with that. And possibly if they should buy a simulator, it include like maybe a year's supply of phones, or if anything goes wrong, they just have to email, like there'd be no more transactions that have to be set up, it's just forward with them. I know that there's some other simulator companies that do that and it's really like positive for the users. So I'm still trying to think through how that would work. But something along these lines. It would include more than just that.
Okay, well, I lost my question. What can we as a community do for you?
Just, I guess, if anybody knows any contacts in the insurance or medical device or medical tools or has any ideas, yeah, I'd love to talk to anybody about it. Connections or anything.
Awesome, thank you. Good job.